If you think you've heard all the stories about Michael Jordan, get ready for one that will move you. This isn't about championships, buzzer beaters, or legendary rivalries. This time it's about something much bigger, an unexpected encounter that revealed the most human side of one of the greatest athletes in history. Imagine walking down the street and suddenly coming across someone from your past, but not as you remember them. Michael Jordan experienced exactly that. During a charity event in Chicago, he decided to take a quiet walk around the city and stumbled upon something that made him stop in his tracks. Among a line of people waiting outside a homeless shelter, a familiar face caught his eye. What he discovered next was heartbreaking. The man who had once been by his side behind the scenes of the NBA was now struggling to get a hot meal. Someone who had helped build one of basketball's greatest dynasties now seemed forgotten by time. And that's when Jordan made a decision no one expected. What did he do? How far did he go to help this man? And most importantly, why did this story touch so many people around the world? Stay with me until the end, because what happened next was simply unbelievable. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this one. Chicago was alive with its usual rhythm that afternoon. The crisp autumn wind swept through the busy streets, carrying the aroma of freshly brewed coffee from the corner shops. Among the towering skyscrapers, Michael Jordan walked at a leisurely pace wearing a discreet cap and a heavy coat. He wasn't there for business or a high-profile event. He simply wanted to feel the pulse of the city that once watched him shine as a king on the court. The crowd passing by hardly noticed that a living basketball legend was among them, lost in his own thoughts. Then, something caught his eye. Across the street, a long line stretched outside a homeless shelter. Men and women waited patiently for their turn to receive a hot meal. Many huddled against the cold, some sitting on the sidewalk as if they had already given up on expecting anything better. Jordan stopped for a moment. He had always been aware of the stark realities of life despite his world of luxury, but this time something made him pause. A familiar face. His heartbeat quickened. He squinted, trying to convince himself that he was mistaken. But no, it was him. Among the countless faces forgotten by society, this man was a part of his past. Carl Peterson, a name he hadn't heard in years, but one he could never forget. Carl wasn't a celebrity. He had never been in the spotlight, but he was one of the key figures behind the scenes of the Chicago Bulls during their golden years in the 90s. He had been there through the grueling training sessions in the tension-filled locker rooms before crucial games, helping to keep the machine running smoothly. Always helpful, always in the background. But now, standing in that line, he was unrecognizable. His clothes were worn out, his posture slouched, his expression filled with exhaustion. Jordan felt a lump in his throat. What had happened? How had a man so dedicated, who had once been surrounded by stars and success, ended up here, forgotten? By time, almost without realizing it, he took a step forward. The scene felt like a distorted nightmare, a brutal contrast between past and present. Before hesitation could take over, he crossed the street, ignoring the curious glances of passers-by. His instincts told him he couldn't just walk away and pretend he hadn't seen this, because at that moment he wasn't the basketball legend. He was just a man standing in front of another about to change the course of this story. The line moved slowly as shelter volunteers handed out trays of warm food. The smell of freshly made soup mixed with the biting cold of the late afternoon. Carl Peterson stood there waiting for his turn, his eyes fixed on the ground, his shoulders hunched as if trying to disappear. Time had been cruel to him. His scruffy beard, worn-out clothes, and deep-set wrinkles left no doubt. This man carried a story of hardship and scars. Michael Jordan felt the weight of reality hit him like a punch to the gut. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. During the Chicago Bulls' golden years, Carl had been an essential part of the team's backstage operations. He was never in the spotlight, never in the headlines, but he was one of the key figures who kept things running smoothly. Always helpful, always committed. How could someone like him end up here? Memories of Carl in the locker rooms flashed through Jordan's mind. He was the type of professional who did his job without expecting recognition, one of those unseen faces who made the show possible. But now, in front of Jordan, he looked like a man abandoned by time, like a piece discarded after it no longer served the game. Jordan didn't hesitate. With firm steps, he approached the line, ignoring the puzzled looks around him. Some people started whispering, realizing the presence of the basketball legend, but he didn't care. At that moment, there was only one thing on his mind: finding out what had happened to Carl. "Carl?" he called, his voice filled with disbelief. The man took a few seconds to react. He slowly lifted his head, his tired eyes struggling to process who was standing before him. When he finally recognized Michael Jordan, a mixture of shock and shame washed over his face. "Michael, I never thought you'd see me like this," and he murmured, looking away as if wishing to disappear. But Jordan wasn't there to judge him. He was there to understand. And more than that, to act. Silence hung between them for a moment, thick as the cold mist settling over Chicago. Michael Jordan stared at Carl with a mix of shock and disbelief. Never, in all these years, had he imagined running into an old acquaintance like this. The man who had once been a vital part of the Chicago Bulls' backstage operations now sat there, hunched over, trying to hide his face as if being in this place was something to be ashamed of. But Jordan didn't see a defeated man. He saw a friend who needed help. Without hesitation, he reached out, gently grabbing Carl's arm and pulling him out of the line. A few people around them whispered among themselves, recognizing the unusual scene, but no one dared to intervene. "Come with me. Let's talk." Jordan's voice was firm but filled with empathy. Carl hesitated. His eyes carried a mix of shame and resistance. Years of hardship had made him wary of kindness. But how could he ignore this invitation? After all, how many times in life does someone like Michael Jordan stop by your side and say they want to hear your story? They crossed the street in silence and entered a quiet coffee shop on the corner. Jordan ordered 2 black coffees and waited. He knew Carl needed a moment to process everything before he could start talking. And then slowly, the truth came out. Carl spoke about his forced retirement, the financial problems that piled up like an avalanche, and the doors that shut one after another. He talked about the desperation of losing his home, of becoming invisible to the world. With every word, his voice carried the weight of years of suffering. Jordan listened without interrupting. There was no judgment in his eyes, only a growing certainty that he couldn't just walk away and leave Carl in this situation. That wasn't who he was. And now, more than ever, he knew he had to act. Michael Jordan was never the type to hesitate. When he saw someone in need, he took action. And in that moment, as he listened to Carl recount his descent into hardship, he made a decision without a second thought. He pulled his phone from his pocket and made a quick call. Carl looked at him, confused, but didn't dare interrupt. Jordan spoke with someone from his team, using that commanding tone that left no room for negotiation. When he hung up, the determined look on his face made it clear. Something big was about to happen. "I just took care of your situation, Carl," Jordan said as casually as if he had just ordered another coffee. "You're leaving here. With me." Carl blinked a few times, still struggling to process what he had just heard. Jordan didn't give him a chance to protest. He grabbed a napkin and a pen and quickly wrote down an address. "This is where you'll be living for the next few months. I've already arranged everything. A furnished apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The only thing you need to do is start over." Carl's eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The shock was evident. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or refuse to believe this was actually happening. "And there's more," Jordan continued. "You're not going to live on charity. I got you a job at one of my businesses. I know your worth, Carl, and I won't let you forget it." The tears finally escaped Carl's eyes. He covered his face with his hands, shaking his head in disbelief. The man who had once been his boss, the greatest star he had ever worked alongside, was now the one reaching out to him when no one else had. And there, in that small coffee shop, Carl Peterson's life began to change. The news spread through the cafe like wildfire. Employees exchanged surprised glances. Customers discreetly peeked over their coffee cups, and within minutes, everyone seemed to understand that something extraordinary was happening. Michael Jordan wasn't just handing out money to an old acquaintance. He was changing the course of a man's life. Carl's eyes were still filled with tears. He tried to wipe them away discreetly, but it was impossible to hide his emotions. It wasn't just the financial help, the roof over his head, or the job. It was the feeling of being seen again, of no longer being just another forgotten face in the crowd. I don't know what to say, Michael," he murmured, his voice trembling. Jordan gave a small smile. He didn't expect words, only action. And he knew that Carl, a man who had always worked hard behind the scenes of the NBA, would seize this opportunity with everything he had. As they left the cafe, one of the shelter workers approached them. He was a middle-aged man, his face marked by years of struggle, but with admiration shining in his eyes. "Mr. Jordan, I just want to say, what you did today, it changes everything. Carl has always been a good man. He just had some bad luck, something many of us here understand too well. But seeing someone like you reach out, that gives us hope." Jordan nodded, touched by the words. At that moment he realized this was about much more than helping an old friend. His gesture had become a beacon of light for many who lived in the shadows of society. And more than that, his action planted a seed. Because if he could do this, how many other sports legends, how many other influential people could look around and do the same? Carl Peterson wasn't just rescued from the streets, he was rescued from oblivion. And all because one man decided to look beyond his own success and extend a hand when no one else would. Michael Jordan proved that true greatness isn't just about what we achieve, but about the impact we leave on the lives of others. This story makes us reflect. How many people who were once important in our lives are now facing silent battles? Is there someone near us who needs a chance, a word, or simply someone to see them? Not everyone has Michael Jordan's resources, but everyone has the ability to make a difference in some way. Sometimes, a simple gesture can change the course of someone's life. And you? Have you ever seen an act of kindness like this? Do you know a similar story? Share it in the comments. Let's spread more inspiring stories. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we always bring you stories that touch the heart and make us see the world in a different way.